You mentioned 2020 and all the things that went on with that. The biggest thing that I saw with the anti-police was absolutely the liberal media. I don't know of any 10 people out there that don't like police officers. But if you watch the news, you would think 99 out of 100 people do, because all they did was search nationwide, in the, how many police officers are, I mean, like New York has like 48,000 in uniform, and every day something happens. Well, they would find the one bad thing that happened and not the 947 good things that happened and put that on the news.
Yeah.
So, and then the whole, not even to get into the woke things and stuff, but it's, when you have people actively campaigning to defund the police, I'm like, do you like read history? Are you like even smart? Because if you don't have policing, you have chaos.
And those people now, they are realizing the error of their ways. And many of those cities who were at the forefront of the defund the police are now saying, oh, well, okay, maybe we do need to fund the police a little bit. I mean, it doesn't take long to go without law and order until you miss it.
Yeah, and think about it too. So you go through that defund the police, you rip the heart out of career police officers to decide it's time to do my second career. And a lot of police departments now, what I'm seeing is not only the undermanned, they have a department that's allowed 1,000 sworn and they're sitting at 700 and can't get the right bodies in. But the 700 they have all have like 400 of them have like less than 4 years because of how many senior guys decided enough.
It's tough, man, because defund the police is the absolute last thing you want if you want better cops. If you want better cops, you need to fund the police more, because right now in this society that we're in, if a guy is squared away and could do a lot of different jobs, why would he go into law enforcement? Be a fireman, do some other things where you're not going to be as heavily scrutinized. You're not going to be hated. And I say that, I know the vast majority of people are pro law enforcement, but as a cop, those aren't typically the people you're dealing with. You're dealing with the same few shitheads over and over and over. And even good people that you deal with, you're typically dealing with them kind of on their worst day, or at least on a bad day. Even something as mundane as stopping someone and writing them a ticket. Nobody likes that. You know what I mean? So you're not often interacting with people at their best. You're interacting with people at their worst. So it's a challenge for sure. And that becomes the problem too. So when you defund the police, then you have people that don't want to be cops. And then you have a pool to select from of applicants that's not nearly as good as what it should be. So when I became a cop in 1997, it was uber competitive. So I remember going to take the written test for the Phoenix Police Department. And of course, they're hiring a lot of people too, right? It's a big department. So when I went there to take the written test, I look around, there's hundreds of people in this room with me, like shoulder to shoulder taking this test. And I'm like, wow, at least this will be a good experience, and ultimately I ended up getting hired. But the bottom line is it was super competitive. And it wasn't just the written test. I mean, there's a psychological evaluation, there's medical, there's physical testing. There is, what am I forgetting? Polygraph examinations and all that stuff. So it was very competitive to do. But now, since nobody wants to put themselves in that situation to be a cop and to be so heavily scrutinized and to make potentially less money, and also the retirement isn't nearly as good in a lot of places now as it is. It's kind of a tiered system. So the guy that gets hired today doesn't have near as good of a retirement as I have, having started, in the 90s. So all of that means that you're getting less desirable people because you're lowering your standards. And based on your military experience, lowering the standards is never the solution.
It's never the solution. And not to paint a completely horrible picture, you're exactly right, because that's going on with the military too. But the one thing that there is great that still exists is both law enforcement and military is a family tradition in a lot of families. So you still are getting a lot of rock stars that generationally were police officers, generationally are military, generationally are firefighters. And they get in there and what do they become? They become the superstars.
And they want to do it for the right reasons.
That's right.
They're not just, it's not just a job, that's their calling.
And I still think there's people out there that it's their calling. I meet one of the cool things about being with this brand is I'm still connected. And you meet a lot of the tactical guys that are out there. And to me, it's one of those things that I got it. Some guys just want to be a patrol officer. But it seems to me like when I meet the guys in the specialty units, they're the guys that really want to do the job. Whether it's gang units, whether it's SWAT, there's so many different specialties out there, but you meet them and you're like, they're all in.
Mm-hmm.
They're still everything you imagine, and they're all in. And then it's just like, to me, how I used to look at soldiers in the military that never tried out for certain things. I'm like, don't you want to be the best?
Yeah.
Don't you want to continue to move up? But it's a cultural thing. One of the other things that you mentioned, the whole defund the police thing and where that got active, that's actually one of the trigger points that had me leave the government and accept a job with Born Primitive. The founders here, both Bear and Mal, are extremely pro-military, pro-first responder, pro-police. And where I was not attracted to coming to an apparel brand, the ethos of this brand I was attracted to. So I was like, well, if I'm allowed to create tactical in the vision I want, I can take that and run with it. And they've allowed me to do that. And that's why we're sitting here today. But I think the ethos of businesses is something that needs to be talked about too, because there are companies and businesses out there that actively got involved in the defund the police. And it's funny, as a military guy, we stopped wearing their brands.
Yeah.
We refused to wear their brands. I remember tossing a certain brand of sneakers away.
Yeah.
And saying no more.
Brother, growing up, I mean, I'm 52. You're about that age, and
a little older.
we used to love Nike stuff. We used to wear that all the time. I mean, it was the way I looked at it as a kid, it's an American brand, but yeah, a lot of stuff that happens and some of the people that they chose to support, it makes you frustrated, and it makes you want to spend your money somewhere else, for sure.
It does. And I'm a big believer in role models. And I have a very hard time with about 90% of athletes because today's culture of, not all, notice I left 10% out. There's some amazing ones, but they're about the money, the branding, and the image. And they go where the flow of the media is.
Yes.
And I don't support that one bit. So when I meet athletes that are all in for the military and law enforcement, I actually start following them. I actually start enjoying watching them fight, play football, whatever they're going to do. And I actually love the sports that stay completely the fuck out of it. There's one sport, hockey.
Yeah.
Which is also the best live sport ever, especially playoff hockey.
Brother, it's amazing.
But you notice that during all this shit that went on, hockey was never involved.
Yeah.
They stood for the anthem and they played hockey.
I'll tell you, one of the most frustrating things for me, brother, because in 2020, I wanted an escape from the day-to-day constant media barrage of how bad cops were. And like the world was turned upside down to where now the bad guy is the good guy and the cops are the bad guy. It's like, what the hell is going on? And so I love baseball. I love to watch baseball, and it's kind of my escape, man. I'm a huge San Francisco Giants fan, having grown up in the Bay Area. And I just, that's something that I enjoy. I like that there's 162 games because, man, it's like almost with you on a daily basis for a lot of the year. But even in baseball, you started having, Black Lives Matter stuff, on the mounds and all this stuff. And I'm like, please, like there is literally no escape from this crap.
Just leave the politics out of it. Play ball.
Yes.
Play ball.
Yes, absolutely.
Like just play ball and let it go. You don't see on a special forces fucking helmet any of that shit.
Yes.
They do the mission. That's what you're there for. Do the mission. I think the issue I had was when you have like the NFL or owners that allow that. I'll give you an example just with me personally. I was born in New England, but I grew up in South Florida. I used to follow another team and they became semi-anti-military and police. And I got exposed to the New England Patriots. And this goes back to mid 2000s, probably like 05, 06. And I saw that they absolutely, their name, the Patriots, were who they were. The way they supported law enforcement, the way they supported the military. We actually were doing training in their stadium and things like that. And I became a Patriots fan because of their support for military and law. They'd have law enforcement night and the stadium was full with them and just all these things that went on. But you started to pay attention. And then when all this shit hit in the NFL, nobody had a thing on a helmet. Nobody was kneeling at the national anthem. I'm like, this is my fucking team.
Yes.
Because they are white noising it out and they're playing football. You know, some other teams did that too. They're not the only team that did that. But then some teams, as a team united front, basically shit on my flag and took a knee. And to these days, I can't even, those teams to me are fucking dead.
Yeah. The most frustrating thing is seeing, you know, teams, hands up, don't shoot, all that stuff. That's an absolutely false narrative that never happened. And it's been proven that that never happened. But yet no one takes the time to research that incident. They just take for truth what they see, you know, well, yeah, the cop shouldn't have shot this guy because his hands were up. Well, if that were the case, they're absolutely right. But guess what? That's not how it freaking happened.
Right. Well, we all know that a 27-minute situation, the media plays the 9 seconds of the suspect getting 100%, put down.
100%.
You never see the buildup. You never see him, you know, everything that took to get there. Sure, watching a canine strike or, you know, guys get forcibly put to the ground is violent. But if you witness the 17 minutes before that, where they try to use non-lethal measures, talk them down, everything there was, and finally it gets to a point where it's a safety issue for either the officers involved or the public, and they have to take action.
Yes, absolutely correct.
Yeah.